What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon, and I am still waiting for my Satyr, and today we are talking about Loveless by Alice Oseman. So Loveless is the story about a girl named Georgia. She just graduated high school, and she's going to university for the very first time. And she comes from a family where everybody seems to have, met their soulmate when they went off to college, and they've been together for years, and, they all believe in true love and romance and all of this. And Georgia has never experienced this. She really wants to find that true love. She really wants to find that special somebody. So when she finally goes off to college, she decides that she's gonna really try to do it. Really try to force it and get in there. And what she ends up finding out is that she's actually asexual. And most of this book is dedicated to her figuring that out. You really see her go from this is how I think about things and this is how I move through the world, to finding out what these terms are and then figuring out how they apply to her, which I really enjoyed. I think a lot of books, especially asexuality books, sometimes skip this step, or it's not as much as I would have liked it to be. With this one, I really feel like you get a good sense of Georgia being really frustrated with herself. It really captured that frustration of why am I just not like everybody else, which for me, I really appreciated seeing. I really identified with Georgia in this. I really heavily identified with the story that she went on. And I guess this is gonna get a little bit personal, but when I was growing up, I never really wanted to have a relationship or have a boyfriend or anything like that. My friends would, and what would end up happening is that I would get jealous, not because I liked their boyfriend or I wanted to have a boyfriend. It was just that I felt left out. They would all go off and have boyfriends, and then I was kind of left just by myself. Specifically, one of my friends got really mad at me because I was going through that this loneliness period, and that's what kind of snapped me into okay, is there something wrong with me? Am I broken? What exactly is going on here? And one of the things that I really like in this book is that Georgia has a crush on this boy for 7 years, and then very early in the book she's faced with the reality of this crush, and she realizes that it was completely fabricated. And that was me with every crush going up. People would just be oh, who do you think is cute? And I would pick somebody and I would just stick to that one person until it was time to move on to somebody else. It would just be oh, okay, I picked this one and this is fine, and we'll just keep on going from there. It's exactly what Georgia goes through as well. It's just what everybody's doing, and she feels like she needs to be a part of it. Going into college, I feel like there is this big emphasis on finding out who you are, which definitely is going to happen when you go into college. Regardless if you're going to discover things about yourself that you thought you were going to discover, or if you're going to discover something completely new, you are going to figure yourself out. I love that Loveless is really, really trying to focus on this, with Georgia being so confused about who she is and this life that she thinks that she should have, and then meeting new people, and it expands the way that she thinks about things, and then the way that she's able to lean on her friends, the way that she's able to learn new things about herself. It was just really beautiful. I remember when I first came across the term asexual, aromantic, it just felt like there was a light bulb going off in my head. I was oh, is that why I'm like this? Is that why I physically just cannot be around these type of people in these types of situations? Is that why I don't want to be in these types of scenarios? It just felt so right to me. And with Georgia, for her, it kind of feels like a death sentence, because suddenly she's not gonna have this life that she thought she was gonna have. And I thought that was really interesting, because for me, it was this relief. I definitely felt what she was feeling with that, oh, I guess I'm never going to grow up and get married. I guess I'm never gonna have that special somebody. But it was also this sense of oh, okay, I don't have to be so worried about everything. I don't have to be trying so hard to be this thing that I'm not, because it's actually not that I'm broken. It's actually not that I just haven't met the right person. It's just the way that I am. And something that Loveless does really well is demonstrate that. Once Georgia starts to come to terms with it, she really realizes this is just part of who she is. And she does go through those conversations where people are well, how do you know that you can be this thing? like, if you've never kissed a boy, if you've never kissed a girl, if you've never had a relationship. And she does try these things. And eventually she realizes, she's like, that's just as bad as telling somebody who says that they like girls, like, well, how can you know that you like girls? Maybe you'll fall in love with a boy someday. Like, it's just as bad as that. And to hear her say that and to like feel her sense of like, you know what, like, I'm finally accepting who it is that I am, was really special to me. And by the end of this book, it actually made me cry, because it was putting such this big emphasis on friendships are just as important as romantic relationships, and, you know, like, being who you are and being comfortable with you are. It just felt so good. I really wish I could have found this book so much sooner. I mean, it just came out, so like obviously that wouldn't have happened. But if I could have read this when I was younger, I think it really would have done wonders for like how quickly I was able to be okay with the way that I am. I also think with this book, it's helped me realize that I am asexual, aromantic. I never wanted to put that aromantic label on it, because to me, that's when it felt like the final nail in the coffin, that like I'll be alone forever, or like anything like that. But seeing what Georgia goes through, I was like, oh, that is so exactly me. It makes so much sense. I think asexuality and like aromanticism is like a mouthful. It's a lot, and it's a huge confusing spectrum, and not everybody defines it in the same kind of way. That's something that Loveless does really well. Georgia has never come into contact with these things, or like if she had, she thought it was like an online thing, and the way that she navigates like figuring it out is really special. She also gets help from one of the friends who kind of introduces it to her. And I love that there is this emphasis on it isn't one definable thing, and that some people use the terms as like an umbrella term, but maybe it's a little bit harder to pin down, or maybe people will define themselves it this way. It's very much showing that like it's this spectrum, and wherever you fall on the spectrum, like that's okay. And if you're just trying to figure yourself out, like that's okay too. It's here to show you that like you're not alone, and that you aren't broken. There's nothing wrong with you. There are other people going through this as well. I thought it was really interesting because I really love like romance in books. I love romantic pairings. I love romantic relationships. I too read a lot of fan fiction like Georgia in this book. But with this, you know, it's put such a heavy emphasis on like romantic relationships don't have to be the end all be all. Like platonic friendship relationships can be just as meaningful and just as important, and the type of love that you feel for your friends is just as big as like the type of love you could feel with a partner, and you can still have that special someone without it being a romantic relationship. And that just like it felt so good to see those words. It felt really good to see that on the page, and it just like filled me up and gave me so much hope. So I just really want to say like thank you to Alice Oseman for giving this book to people like me, for like this book just being out there at all. I think it is so special. It is so perfect. It's so funny because it is very fluffy, but I still just really, really enjoyed it, and I couldn't stop reading it. Now, if you want to read this book, it is, I think right now, only available in the UK. I heard about this from my D&D group. I actually play Dungeons and Dragons with a couple other aromantic asexuals, and they found out about this book, and I ordered it from the UK. So I think it's coming out in America and other places soon, but I'm not sure. You'll just have to check that out. You can also find the author on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But I just really, truly loved this book, and I'm really excited to check out some other stuff by her. I have Radio Silence. I have a couple of her books on hold as well, and just I can't recommend this book enough. It's definitely become one of my favorites. It helped me really work through some things that like I thought I had already worked out with myself, but I just feel a lot more comfortable and grounded now that I've read this book and been on this experience with Georgia. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you can talk books with me every week. That is everything I got for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!